Hello, everyone, and welcome to Grow As We Go.
Hi everyone, it's Fatima.
Hi, it's Angie.
Hi, it's Diana.
And I'm Ashley. So I feel like recently we have all kind of been having, or in the past, we've kind of been struggling with the way that the timeline of our life has been in terms of like not being where you want to be or having like too much high expectations, you know what I mean? Like, or comparing yourself to other people and like where they are in life. So I feel like that's often a struggle, at least for us. I don't know if y'all would agree that we have all kind of been feeling.
100%. I think especially now that at least I know that me and Ashley are graduating like within the next couple of months. So I think especially with that whole chapter of undergrad ending and essentially like, not being a student anymore, and like then having the not, college is a choice, but then having the choice whether or not you're going to return back to school. I think that has been such a huge shock because I feel like we grew up, especially in high school, we were always pushed towards the idea that we would have our shit together by the end of graduation and have a job after graduation and know exactly what we're gonna do and be fucking engaged in college and have met this wonderful guy. Like I remember in Avid, they made us do like this worksheet, like this 10-year worksheet of planning out like how the hell your life would look like. I was like 17 years old making this worksheet, knowing damn well that did not happen, so I think it's just so insane on how we were told these expectations growing up, how life is going to look like as a young adult, especially after graduation, and to see that that's not the true reality. And it's not that we're doing anything wrong, it's just that we've been told the wrong story. They don't tell us the reality of how hard it is to actually get a job after of college, especially about how many people are getting more degrees, especially the pandemic. Like there's just so many layers that just wasn't accounted for.
Yeah, I think going back to the expectations, I think that we don't expect to not know what to do at this point. We don't expect to be this like confused about life more than ever, I think, because I think at least I can speak for myself when I'm in school. I'm still in school and I still will be for another year. But while I'm here, it's like this thing that I'm able to like college is like a backbone for me, it's like I feel comfortable, I feel secure, but I don't know how that must feel not being able to have that. You get me? Because you're used to being in school for so long, and so once you're released, you're like, wait, I'm solo. Wait, this is real. And then like I'm assuming reality would hit you, right? Like
I feel like it's just the fact that we have, like what Angie was saying, like we always thought that life was going to be all rainbows and butterflies and everything's going to be, and then you're like linear and you're going to graduate and then you're going to have a job and you're going to get married and you're going to have kids and you're going to have a career and then it's like the ladder of success. But I feel like we forgot to kind of include that things happen, who would have thought that we would have been in a pandemic? Who would have thought that we would have lost the last year? Who would have thought that we would have been living the lifestyle that we have now? And so I feel like more than ever, I feel like right now it's been more evident and more clear that life is not linear. There's troubles in each stage of our life, so I don't think we should be so like hard on ourselves. But like it's easier said than done, you know what I mean?
I think it's so hard to apply when that's the narrative that you've been fed your entire life, So it's hard to detach yourself from the narrative of how life is supposed to look like. I mean, even thinking back to like that game that we would play that board game we would play as kids, Life. That's also subconsciously was setting narratives that we should follow, like the movies that we'd watch, the shows that we would watch, every single thing where we're surrounded by told a specific narrative of how life would essentially look like as a young adult,
Yeah, and sometimes I kind of feel not bad for myself, but kind of disappointed in myself. I'm like, wow, I didn't really follow what I was told, like I'm not really in that same path. But then I'm like, what if I did follow that path? I wouldn't have been happy with what I was doing. I wouldn't have known what I would do after, So at the same time, I'm kind of glad I'm not in that path, but at the same time, it's like I could have been done before because now I have to be in school for another year and a half.
What's the rush?
Yeah, I don't feel like I'm rushed with that same narrative you're saying we've been told our whole lives. That kind of still gets to me sometimes. I'm like, damn, I could have been done.
And I think, a lot of these issues, I feel like it just comes with the sense of comparing yourself to others and where they are in their lifestyle, at least personally for me. because I mean, you grow up and then you see other people who are successful what they do, or they've already they already have their feet on the floor and they're stable in whatever they're doing. Like, they found their way, and you kind of compare, especially now with social media too. Like, we've talked about this before. Like, obviously you show what you want to show and you show the highlights of your life on social media, you know, but it's so like the line, how do I say it? Like, it's so hard to actually acknowledge that, you know. It's like, I know it, but it's like you still want to compare yourself to that, and like, damn, like, fuck, like, I suck, you know. And I shouldn't be feeling that way, because like, we each have our own, like I said, paths.
I sometimes wonder, well, personally for me, I think time is what is a big, huge factor in my anxiety, because I feel like I don't have enough time, or I'm not, like how you guys all said, you're not at the right place at the right time. And I wonder, like, if we're 28, are we still gonna feel this way? Like, this time, like, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Because I always kind of constantly hear that from older people, and people always tell me, like, oh, it's not until you're 30 where you feel like you're actually living your life, supposedly. But I wonder when this ending cycle of not feeling enough, or the time is like leaving you, I wonder when that's going to end, because I feel like in any stage that I'm at, even in fucking high school, like, why was I such in a rush? Like, I was just like, I want to grow up so bad, and once I'm like here, I'm just like, fuck, I don't know what to do, you know?
I know, I feel so rushed. I feel like I don't have enough time to do anything, because I'm like, oh my god, like, I'm supposed to buy a house by this time, I'm supposed to be married by this time, and then I want to have kids by this time, and then I want to do this, but I also want to travel, I also want to do things for myself after I graduate. Like, there's so many things in my head, and it gives me anxiety all the time. But then I'm like, okay, I'm still young, but then, like, you know, it still kind of gets to me still.
I think because we're constantly worrying about time and what we need to do tomorrow, we need to do in 5 years, we're not living in now, not embracing what it is that we're doing right now. And I know that I have, and it sucks to say, and I'm realizing it. I'm happy that I'm realizing it now before I actually graduate. I mean, a month before I graduate, but I realized that I haven't allowed myself to even enjoy or embrace the change, and embrace, you know, the feeling
Ride
of
the
unknown
waves.
and riding the wave, because I have been so caught up with, holy shit, my life is not going to look like how I pictured it after I graduate. But then I'm like, who set this picture? Did I draw this picture? Did this picture that I had, like, even fit what it is that I wanted to do? Like, no. So, like, I'm over here putting expectations, holding myself and binding myself to things that I didn't even create for myself. So, like, it's just a bunch of different things that I'm just trying to, like, let go and just embrace what's in front of me. But it's hard. It's easier said than done. So it's a ride for sure.
That's true. And I've talked to people and professors. They were in the same situation as we were, and they're doing things right now that they would have never thought they would do. Like, it was totally out of their storyline or their picture they drew as well. So it's kind of like, I never thought. For example, my professor was like, I hated physics growing up. I hated it so bad. And now that's something I teach, you know, something I do all the time. Like, I wouldn't thought I was going to teach this.
I feel like the root of it all is just like us trying to have control over our future, and control of like how it's going to happen, and control how we're going to feel when it happens. And I like, I'm curious now that you're saying, I'm kind of reflecting right now, because I think that maybe after each milestone that we do, maybe it's like a test to if we'll be able to trust the process, or are we going to be like, are we going to be drowning in anxiety of not like having control over what we cannot know or what we cannot see. And I think that's like the main factor, that it's like, it's testing, you know, because it's like, you can trust and like just ride the wave, or when you're there you can like be like, fuck, I'm not where I'm supposed to be, and then like just going that route, you know.
I think you should just really trust the process, because as long as you're doing your part and you're trying your best, I think somehow, one way or another, sooner or later, something's gonna come out for you. Something very good's gonna come out, you know.
I think this whole thing has also made me realize how much I like obsessed over having control over things. Like, I was telling my brother, I remember on a run where I was telling him, venting to him how I was feeling, and like expressing how it brought me so much anxiety not knowing what I would do come October, come September, come whatever, December. Like, you have our entire lives as students, like since we were little, our earliest memories, we always knew in August I'll be in school, in sometime in November I'll have a break, sometime in December I will too. Whatever, all like, you technically had some sort of structure to your life, and for that to be completely like gone and not know exactly, like, will I have a job in October? I don't know. Will I be here in October living in the OC? Will I be back home, or will I be in another state? Like, everything is so unknown, and I was like freaking out. And he's like, I never realized how much like you know wanted to have control over things, you know. And I was like, holy shit, I didn't either, because I was like, I just hate not knowing. Like, I was like, I hate not knowing what I'm gonna do in October, you know, like, or whatever.
And that's the beauty of it. Like, you don't know what you could be in fucking Hawaii, you can be in New York, you can be anywhere you want to be.
I think it all has to go back to the way that we don't, or at least personally, like, it's so hard to adjust to change. Like, we're so used to living, like, we've been living this educational lifestyle, you know, for the past, 16, 18 years. And so then, like, all of a sudden, it's, you have the control to do whatever you want. And I mean, it's natural to not know what you want to do. And it's natural to maybe take a gap year and explore life and catch up on all the things that you have been too caught up with on school, and kind of use that time to invest it in yourself. And I've always said, you know, when you were talking about this, I was like, okay, it's okay to, like, or what Diana was saying, like, it's okay to just ride the wave and, like, do whatever you're doing. But I always think that it's better for you to be proactive about it, in terms of, like, not just doing nothing, you know. But at the same time, I'm like, is that a bad way to think about it, because you're planning ahead and you're not, like, actually living in the now? So it's kind of like you have, like, that hard medium where you don't, like, that gray area where you don't know, like, okay, so I'm relaxing now, I'm taking it all in, but shouldn't I be planning for the future?
It's not bad to plan for the future. I think it's always good, but we can't just have we can't expect to go the way we want it to go, you know. It's like, okay, I'll have, we're like, okay, well, I have this plan, go for it, but, you know, things could change along that way, and that's something we need to accept. And be okay with it.
Like, be okay with not, like, having the results that you desired. But I think, like, what you were saying, Ashley, is important to point out, because it's like this fight between the ego and it's like, I don't know what to call the other side, but it's like the ego always wants to have control of, like, what's gonna happen tomorrow, like, I need to know. But I think that's good to have, in a sense, because it's how we got here, like, because we plan things out. But I think having that, exactly. But I think having that, like, little minimum, like, that space of, okay, I have like a little ideal what I want to happen, but, like, I'm okay if it doesn't. Like, let's just ride the wave. And if I don't work out with what I want, then, and something else happens, okay, I'm good with that, and trusting the process in that way. But I also think, like, it's, like, really important to have that outline, at least, like, kind of. But if not, then with experience, hopefully that will come about, you know.
And something that you mentioned is that you said that you've always heard, like, people say, like, oh, in the 30s, that's when you're chilling with your lifestyle. But I come to question myself, like, is it because you're comfortable with the way that your lifestyle is and you're happy where you are? Or is it just because you kind of gave up and you had to deal with other responsibilities? Or is it once you give up, you start to realize, you know what, I'm fine where I am now?
I think they stop giving a fuck about, like, having that, because that's how I always hear that, like, once you're 30, you'll actually be living your life. That's when you finally start your life.
But, like, did they get just comfortable with where they were at, and they're like, okay, let's face it, this is what I'm gonna be for the rest of my life? Like, is that what happened? Or is it like they're genuinely like, I'm happy where I'm at in my life? It's, like, so hard to, like, I wonder what it is.
I think there's a space to be liberated and to be happy wherever phase you are in life, if you allow yourself to embrace it. Like, I don't think it's like, oh, I have to wait till I'm 30 to finally live my life. I think it's, if you could live it right now, today, tomorrow, like, you can start right now, you know, if you allow yourself to, let me embrace the unknown, let me embrace being a 20-year-old.
I think it has to do with, like, the individual person, like, where does that person want to be in their life, and maybe writing that down. Because if it's like, I just want to live life, man, I just want to explore, all right, then there you go, that's the basis of how you're going to live your life. But I feel like if someone was like, no, I actually want to have a business, I want to do this, I want to do that, that's great to have, but maybe not, like, just enjoying you know what I mean? I think it's, like, very individual.
Like, have values.
But I agree. Yeah.
Giving space for that person to create whatever they want, you know, like, that person wants a business, they get to mold that, and then some other person wants to explore, they get to mold that, and none of them are wrong for wanting either.
I think that's the point that's great that we're making, that there's no right or wrong way to go. It's like, wherever your heart desires, wherever you want to go, with your own master of your reality, like, you do what you want.
I guess it's kind of like, you know, when you have assignments in school or whatever, and your teacher says, oh, you just have to do this, but you can do it whatever you want. Like, have you guys ever had an assignment like that, where, like, okay, this is your final result, but you can go about it whatever way, you can attack the assignment whatever way you want? And personally, for me, I feel discomfort, because, like, I want my teacher or professor to tell me what I should do to get where I should.
That's so interesting, because me, I'd be like, yes. Like, I could,
you know, for me personally, I need somebody to tell me, okay, you need to be do this first, and then do this first, and then do this first, and then ta-da, you're at your answer. And I hate when teachers say, like, you have the liberty to take this project wherever you want, and I'm like, well, you know. So I feel like it parallels to life too.
I wonder if that has anything to do with, like, how it is that you are as a person, because you're a very, like, structured person. You're, like, even down to the T of, like, your daily to-do list, it's very boom, like, 1, 2, 3 type of thing. And yeah, you do give leeway, whatever, but like that's just how you are as a person. And it's so interesting because if my professor would tell me like, this is your final project, go about it however you way, I would feel really happy because I don't have any restriction. I can go about it however it is I feel like it. You know what I mean? So it's so interesting.
That's something that I want our audience to reflect on this homework assignment example. Like, would you be the one that's like freaking out, or do you need direction? Because that's a good thing to reflect on. Because if you need direction, then maybe like having like the set goals that you want in your life, or like maybe embracing the path that you want, it depends. And that maybe that'll help you figure out like who you are and how you want to live your life in that way, you know?
I'm going back to the comparison thing because it's so easy to do it.
I think that's the number one thing here.
Yeah, and it's like, why do I care so much that so-and-so is already getting married and so-and-so already has a house and so-and-so already has their life established? And it's like, I know that's not what I want to be doing, but I'm like, maybe I should be doing that. You know what I mean? Like, I know I don't want to be getting married anytime soon, but then I'm seeing so-and-so get married and I'm like, damn, should I find somebody that I want to spend the rest of my life with already?
But then I see there's so many people, a lot of people that we went to high school with, everybody has a different life path. Like, some people have kids, some people are getting married, some people like didn't go to college and have like a, I don't know, like a really good job right now or something. I don't know, but I'm just like, damn, I think it's the beautiful thing of seeing like all this, like everybody has a different path. Try not to compare yourself to them because you're on your own path and they're probably looking at your life path saying like, damn, she's doing good, you know?
I think 20s are a trip just because of that, just because of seeing all the people that you grew up with or people that you're around and seeing how different everybody's life looks at different points, you know. I mean, at the same age that we are, you know, like, and I think, yeah, it's like, it's so crazy for us to recognize, like, I would hate for someone, like, if someone would be like looking at my life and be like, damn, you know, she went to school, whatever, and I'd be like, dude, no, like, it's so easy for us to tell them, like, you're on your thing, like, you're doing great, you're you know, whatever, but it's so hard to apply that to yourself.
And I always think about, like, for example, like my parents, like by my age, like my mom already had 2 kids, you know, she was already doing her own stuff. Like my sister at my age, she already had a son. Like and I think that's crazy. It's like you compare yourself to like your family members and you're like, damn, like we're really living different lifestyles, you know? And then you see the lifestyle that they have now and you can't help to think like, maybe my life will be different, maybe my life will be the same. Like, you never know. Like, that's kind of like the journey. And I think it has to do with the way that our brains were developing back then. You know, we were teenagers, we probably didn't have as much like experiences and like intellect, and just made sense. And like, we, like, you know how they say like, oh, teenagers hate everything and they only care about their friends and stuff. And like, you know, I used to laugh at that and say like, oh, you're just saying that just to mess around with me. But like, in the grand scheme of things, like low key, I didn't really care. And it was just about me and my friends and having fun, which is fine. You know, that's normal. Because of that, things that like people tell you just like flash by.
I think that I had a conversation with one of our friends that was on the podcast before, Brittany. We talked about careers and like how we also been sold this idea that when you go to college, you get this degree and that's going to be something that you do for the rest of your life. And we don't really leave room for the thought of how our ideal career adapts and change as we also adapt as humans and grow and change. Like, I might be wanting to be X, Y, and Z right after college and then do that for a couple years, and then later on allowing yourself to be adaptable and allowing your lifestyle to change as you change too is so key, because then you're going to hinder yourself from experiencing other things that you probably should be experiencing in your lifetime, you know? And I think that's also constricting too, because people freak out the idea like, damn, like I'm gonna, for example, like, damn, I'm gonna graduate, I'm gonna be a nurse, I'm gonna be a nerd for the rest of my life. Holy shit, my life is gonna look X, Y, and Z for the rest of my life. And that's a scary thought too. Like, sameness is scary and unknown is scary. So I think there's a happy medium, you know?
Even going to our episode when we talked about insecurities, Fatih had mentioned how she compared herself to herself like years prior. And I think that should be applicable to this conversation as well, like comparing ourselves to only ourselves from like a year ago and trying to better yourself every single year, trying to up your own self, trying to like learn more, trying to like discover more about yourself. And I think that's like more of a healthy way to go about like the comparing section of this conversation, you know?
I would always kind of be weirded out, like, what do you mean you don't like what you're doing if you studied 4 years in college and you don't like what you're doing? But then I think about it and it's like, you grow as a person just because you like something. Like, for example, just because I like a certain band of music right now, let's say because I really like this certain type of music, doesn't mean down the line I'm gonna like the same music. So the same thing can be applied to careers. Let's say you studied for, I don't know, biology. And then you know what? You're like, I don't care about biology. Like, I don't really like it. It's okay for you to go and do whatever else you wanted to do, your new passion. And I feel like I used to always be like, that's dumb. Like, they just spent so much time for them not to even like what they studied, when it's natural. Like, you're gonna grow. It's like you're bound to grow of things that you've fallen in love with. Like, that's the way of life. Like, that's how the cookie crumbles. Like, that's, you know. And I don't know why I used to think like that, but I'm glad that my eyes have been opened, and, you know, as I grow older, I start to realize that, like, it's normal for you to grow out of things.
And not thinking that it's like a waste of time that you just spent, and like feeling a failure because of that, and just embracing your humanity and be like, okay, I don't want that now. That's okay. And I trust in the process, because I feel like we can also feel really shitty about what we did because we weren't as passionate about it. Like,
but at that time you were happy, like you were
exactly, and you needed that to understand that right now, you know.
Every piece was essential to the puzzle, and I think recognizing that, like, even though my puzzle changed and it's probably looking different from what I thought, but that piece was so essential, and just because I changed, it doesn't mean, it doesn't devalue it. It doesn't anything. It's still important.
If you're listening to this and you feel like you're not doing enough, just know that if you're trying your best, if you're trusting, that is all. That is enough. If you know that you're putting your best, that's the limit. Like, you're fine.
I think it's natural to feel like, oh, it's the end of the world for me. Like, my whole, like, that's a natural feeling. Like, if something bad happens to you, you're gonna think like, damn, like I messed up, like you know. But eventually, that's the beauty of it. It's that you're gonna get through eventually, and like, you're gonna look back years from now like, damn, I was really upset about that one situation that happened to me. Now look at me now, and I'm happy. Like, you know how everybody says like, oh, things happen for a reason, like, you know. And it's so hard, it's so easy to think like, oh, you're just saying that just because you're just saying that, but it's really true.
And it sucks so much because when you're in that situation, you feel alone. You feel like you're the only one going through it.
Mm-hmm. All of us have gone through it. You're not alone, whoever's listening to this.
I was talking to my sister and my brother again, like, how I was feeling through everything, and they're like, Angie, I don't know if you've noticed, but every time you go through a fat change, like, you feel like the world's crashing down, dude. Like, you, after elementary school, my dad would be like, after elementary school, you were crying, you didn't want to go to middle school. After middle school and going into high school, you were crying. And at college, the same thing. They're like, Angie, you go through this every time, like, you know. And then I started to really think about it. I'm like, damn, like, when am I gonna undo this terrible cycle of me fucking letting myself be miserable over change? Like, when am I gonna finally allow myself to embrace it? And I think that's, like, I guess my piece of advice that I would probably get to myself and to you, hopefully you could take this too, is recognizing your patterns, recognizing that you have the ability to switch your perspective on things.
And you're fine, right? Every time you would have a mental breakdown, but then you got through high school, you got through college. I'm sure you'll get through life.
It's so important to understand it's only temporary, because I feel like when I was into that situation, I feel like it was never ending. I was like, God damn it, like, how do I feel it? And I just be crying. Yes. But like, no, you're okay. You will go through, you will get through this, because we all went through it, and you're going to continue to go through these cycles. So just embrace it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you're really passionate about it, and if it's something that you're really like interested in, it, you have the power to make it happen, and to do the things in your best interest to make it happen, if you're that torn over something that you really wanted to happen. You know what I mean?
Alrighty, yeah, I think this brings us to our Discover Her segment, and I wanted to ask you ladies, what's some words of motivation you would give to our audience about our life paths and not feeling like you're not doing enough?
One thing that I saw earlier today, I was doing a homework assignment, was this quote, and it said, stop seeing yourself as who you are, but who you are becoming. And I think that's beautiful, because as we've been said in like previous episodes, is like, you're still a ever evolving person, and that's the beauty in life, that you're like, just think about it, you're still not at the best potential that you'll ever be right now. Like, even if you think you're living the best lifestyle right now or whatever, it's amazing to know that things will get better. And I think that's just amazing. And it's like, even if you think you're at your lowest, like, just think forward and say, you know what, like, in a couple years or a couple months or a couple days or maybe tomorrow, my life is just going to change for the better. So you should stop seeing yourself as who you are, but see yourself as who you are becoming.
I think my word of advice is that your ideal life, or what it is that you want to do, doesn't have to make sense to anyone but yourself. And as long as you feel that you're living authentically to your values and what you want for yourself, and you allow yourself to freely create the future that it is that you want, that is you following your North Star. And I think that is so important, because we've again, have always been set with expectations of what following your North Star may look like, but you are going to create a path that's beautifully made by you. So to live without expectations and to free yourself from what it is that binds you to create a life that's supposed to look a certain way, just create it yourself.
I think my piece of advice would be that you have the power to change your perspective. You have the power to move the way that you feel about your situation. You have the power to see your life in a different light and change your mindset at this present moment now. If you feel like you're not doing enough, you can I don't want to say easily, but you have the power to change that by just saying, no, I am, or I am trusting the process. Do positive affirmations if you feel like you're not emotionally able to, or if you feel like the world's just against you, you can easily change that perspective. So you have the power.
I think what I would say is to go for the things that you really want to do. If you're really curious and it's been sitting in the back of your head for a very long time, then just go for it. You know, that's something you could probably be a big changer in your life and probably bring you some open doors that you never thought would open for you, you know? Exactly what Angie said, that you create your own path, and that's what is beautiful about everybody's own life path, because everybody's just different. You can't compare to somebody that's not you. Don't stress too much. You'll get there one day.
And if the path seems lonely, just zoom out and find comfort that we're all just trying to reach our North Star. That's the one thing we have in common. Everything else is different.
Alrighty, thanks for joining us today. For more content, head over to our Instagram at Girls with Go Podcast, as well as our YouTube channel. And we hope y'all enjoyed your dose of growth for today. And remember to always strive for growth.